From the very first moment that morning, the street felt unusually heavy, as if the world itself was watching quietly, waiting for something to happen. The woman sat on the cold pavement near the corner bakery, arranging her small baskets of handmade keychains and simple cloth flowers. Her hands trembled slightly from the early chill, but more from exhaustion. Behind her eyes lived a tiredness far deeper than physical fatigue. It was the weight of days where hope felt thin, and nights where sleep never brought comfort. Yet she sat there anyway, because giving up was a luxury she could not afford. That was when a group of kids approached her, laughing, pointing, whispering loudly enough for her to hear every cutting word. And in that moment, before anyone stepped in, before any car stopped, before anyone saw her pain, she felt the sting of humiliation pierce deeper than any hunger ever had. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and giving people a second chance, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. It truly encourages more stories like this. The woman's name was Maria. She wasn't always someone who sold trinkets on the street. There was a time her life looked different: a small rented apartment, 2 steady jobs, and a daughter who always smiled when she entered the room. But life is unpredictable, and sometimes it strips things away not one by one, but all at once. Her husband left years ago, and rising costs eventually forced her to choose between rent and food. She lost the apartment, then the job at the tailor shop, then the night shift cleaning job she took to replace it. Still, what hurt her most wasn't her own misery, it was the fear in her daughter's eyes when they had to move into a small shelter. Maria had always told her that strong people never lose hope, but hope felt distant now. Still, she tried. For months she taught herself how to make little items she could sell cheaply: cloth flowers, small hand-stitched keychains, little bracelets made from the leftover threads donated to the shelter. They were simple, imperfect, but made with dedication. She set up her tiny street stand every morning with quiet determination, even when the streets felt cold and unkind. Every day, she hoped for enough sales to buy another meal for her daughter, to save a little for a better room, to someday stand tall again. But not everyone saw her struggle. To some, she was invisible. To others, she was a joke. That morning, the group of teenagers walking by didn't see a hardworking mother fighting to survive. They saw only a woman sitting on the ground with a handful of handmade items and an old cardboard sign. They nudged each other, smirked, and began whispering cruel remarks, laughing as if her suffering were entertainment. Their laughter echoed down the street, bouncing against the shop windows and sinking into her heart. Maria stared at her hands, trying to breathe steadily. She didn't look up. She didn't want her daughter, who sat quietly a few feet away helping sort the bracelets, to see her breaking. The kids didn't stop there. They mocked her cloth flowers, calling them useless. They pointed at her faded clothes, her worn-out shoes, her tired face. Their voices grew louder, boldened by each other's presence. A few passers-by glanced over but quickly looked away. No one wanted to step into something uncomfortable. No one wanted to be involved. Maria tried to focus on the table before her, tried to pretend she didn't hear them, tried to hold herself together for just one more day. But humiliation has a way of sinking deeper when there's no shield left to protect you, and on that morning she felt exposed, vulnerable, and small. Then something happened, something so simple, yet so unexpected that it changed everything. A car slowed to a stop right in front of her stand. It was a clean, modest sedan, nothing flashy, nothing intimidating. The kids glanced at it, suddenly unsure. From the car stepped a man in his early 40s, dressed in plain work clothes, the kind worn by someone who didn't care about luxury, but cared deeply about responsibility. He looked around, noticing the scene immediately. His eyes fell on the woman, then on the children laughing, then on the small girl beside her who clutched the cloth flowers protectively as if shielding her mother. He walked slowly toward the stand, his presence quiet but firm, the kind of presence that gently demands attention without raising a voice. The kids stopped laughing, their smirks fading. their confidence slipping as they watched him approach. Something in his calmness unsettled them. He didn't look at the kids. He didn't need to. Instead, he looked at Maria's table, at her work, at her effort, at the small pieces of her dignity laid out for the world to judge. He took his time, running his hand gently over the cloth flowers, picking up the keychains, examining them as if they were precious. Maria watched him with a mixture of confusion and fear, unsure of what he wanted. She was used to people ignoring her, or mocking her, or telling her to move. She wasn't used to someone pausing with genuine interest. He finally knelt slightly, reaching for the little items one by one, making sure the girl could see his warm smile. And then, just as the silence grew heavy, he asked if she made all of this herself, not in a mocking tone, but with respect, with sincerity. Something in his voice felt different, like someone recognizing her effort where everyone else had dismissed it. The kids shifted uncomfortably. As the man carefully examined each piece, he listened when Maria finally gathered the courage to explain, in a trembling voice, that she made them to support her daughter. She didn't speak proudly. She spoke softly, almost apologetically, as if she owed the world an explanation for her existence. But the man didn't just hear her, he understood her. He saw the mother who refused to give up. He saw the woman who stitched hope into every thread, even when her own hope was fading. He stood up, looked at her small spread of handmade goods, and asked how much everything cost. All of it. Not one piece. Not two. Everything. Maria froze. Her daughter looked up in shock. The kids stared silently, suddenly realizing how wrong they had been, how shallow their laughter sounded now. The man didn't hesitate. He pulled out his wallet and paid generously, more than the small table of items was worth, but not as charity, as acknowledgement. He then gently told her that her work was beautiful, that she was doing something admirable, something strong, something brave. He said the world needed more people who created rather than gave up. Those words, simple, genuine, were enough to soften the air around them, enough to make the kids feel the weight of their actions, enough to make Maria's eyes fill with tears she had fought for months. As he gathered the items, the man turned to the kids for the first time. There was no anger in his expression, no harshness, no loud lecture. Instead, there was quiet disappointment, the kind that pierces far deeper than shouting ever could. The kids lowered their eyes, understanding for the first time that mocking someone's struggle didn't make them superior. It exposed their own immaturity. The man walked back to his car, placed the items carefully inside, and before leaving, he told Maria that if she ever needed a place to sell her items indoors, he managed a small community center nearby and would gladly give her a stall space for free. Her hands covered her mouth. Her daughter looked like she might burst into tears. It was not just a sale, it was a lifeline, a real chance at steady dignity. When his car drove away, the street felt different. Softer, kinder. The kids quietly walked up to Maria and apologized, not because someone forced them to, but because they truly felt remorse for what they had done. Maria, with a tired smile that finally held a glimmer of light, nodded gently, accepting their apology. It wasn't easy, but she had learned long ago that forgiveness is a form of strength too. That day, Maria didn't just earn money, she earned respect, she earned a chance, she earned a moment where the world reminded her she still mattered. And everything changed from there. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps these emotional stories alive. Before you go, please comment. Kindness can change everything. The next weeks brought more change. The community center gave her a place to sell, protected from weather and mockery. People saw her work differently, appreciated her craftsmanship, and treated her like a creator, not a beggar. And slowly, day by day, sale by sale, smile by smile, Maria began rebuilding the life she thought she had lost. Her daughter returned to school with hope, and their nights no longer felt cold, all because one man stopped his car. All because he chose kindness over convenience. All because he saw her humanity when others refused to see anything at all. And sometimes, that's all it takes to change a life forever.